September 21st, a day I'll never forget. I'm sorry if I start crying.
It's okay. No worries. It's okay. Take your time.
September 21st was my son's picture day, and I had braided his hair. And he was off to school. 10:30 in the morning, his teacher texted me and said, Landon's having a really rough transition. Is there any way you can come and, let's see what we can do? My husband ended up going to the school to pick him up. He got home at around 10:50 because we live not too far from the school. And as soon as he gets home, he takes his stuff off and says, Mama, and he's like pulling on his braid. And I'm like, what happened? And he said, Mama. And I was like, did someone pull your hair? And he said, yeah. And I said, did a friend pull your hair? He goes, Mama, no. And I said, okay, well, we're gonna talk to your teacher in the morning and we'll figure it out. Later that afternoon at around 2:30, it was almost the closing of school. It was pretty late. We received a phone call from the principal, and he had said, I'm sorry to inform you. We contacted the state, we contacted CPS, and I was like, okay, because that's how he approached it when he called. And I was like, so am I being reported for hitting my child? I'm confused. And he said, no, ma'am, unfortunately, a teacher did assault your child. And now at that point, I'm kind of like numb, like, wait, what is happening? I don't know if it's like, am I really processing what's happening? So I was like, thank you so much for letting me know. I call my husband. My husband rushes to the school. They had him sign, it was a release form to show the exact time of when it happened. And sure enough, there was a video in the cafeteria where a teacher who was not my son's teacher went up to my son and put hands on him. The SRO that works in the school. So this was Thursday. On Friday, I went in the next day with my husband. I also had to sign a paper allowing me to watch the video. And from there, they gave me the legal options. They said to me, if you don't press charges, we are. And I said, oh, okay. Like there should be no problem here, right? The SRO said, I'm gonna write the police report. You're gonna go pick it up at the magistrate. And from there, they're going to give you a warrant for assault. And then we'll do our work from there. So I'm like, okay, great. This lady's gonna get out of school, Like, I didn't even, I've never been in any, problem. So, this is all new to me. I had no idea. So I was like, okay, perfect. They're making it super easy. It's gonna be great. I get to the magistrate's office to go pick up that police report. And they wrote me a note that says, you need to fix this last sentence from the SRO. She cannot get a warrant for assault. And I was like, okay, well, what does this mean? So I had to go back to the school, meet with the SRO. He said, you have Deputy Green, who was, am I allowed to say their names? Okay. They had Deputy Green, who was going to take on your case. From there, moving forward, he's gonna be the one you contact. I said, great. A couple of days went by, still no phone call from Deputy Green. So a couple of days later, he was on leave. So a couple of days later, he came back and he called me, and that was our first interaction. And his exact words were, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Crockett, but you're not going to be able to get a warrant for assault. And I said, you have got to be kidding me. And he said, no. And I said, well, who made this decision? And he said, the district attorney. If you don't agree with what it is that he's saying to us, you're more than welcome to give him a call or anything of that sort. So I had a phone call meeting with Dan Rollier, who is the assistant district attorney. And I was like, hey, I want to know how you came up with this information. Why are you not taking the case? Like, I'm confused. I have a report that says assault. There's a video. There are teachers who witnessed this incident happen. What is happening here? He said, ma'am, I didn't get a video. I said, what do you mean you didn't get a video? He goes, no one brought a video to me, so I don't know why you're being so, mouthy, in other words, because I was just going off. And he said, I don't have a video. And I said, Deputy Green said that you have the video and you watched it. He said, have him come back and bring me another copy of the video. So he went, called me on speaker, and he goes, yeah, no, we're not taking this. I said, why? He said, this won't hold up in court. We're not taking this. Thank you so much and have a good day. And I said, what is happening here? Because like I said, at this point, I don't know anything about legals or criminal stuff. I don't know anything about this. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? So from there, I'm like, now I'm screwed. So I get an attorney, which I no longer have an attorney. We parted ways. I emailed, oh my God, I can't even tell you how many emails. I've contacted the SRO, the Civil Rights Office. I've contacted Washington, D.C. I've contacted the ADA, all these people, and no one can give me answers to anything.
Yeah, can you take us back to what exactly you saw when you watched the video? Like specifics and, just how it makes you feel, as a mom seeing that happen to your son.
So when we watch the video, you see my son having his tantrum. You see his teachers trying to address him, trying to get him to calm down. His teacher walks away, and then my son is standing right here. And from this corner, you see this teacher. Remind you, I don't know who this teacher is. She walks over, she gets in his face, starts yelling at him, goes like this. She walks away and then approaches him again, gets in his face yelling at him, and then grabs his mouth. And then he turns around and grabs her hair and pulls it. And then she turned around and grabbed his hair and pulled it. And then from there, from what I can remember clearly, she eventually pushes him. And now he's trying to tussle with her. And it looks like an adult fighting a 4-year-old, And it pisses me off. My son is nonverbal. And I get it. I was a teacher once. Teachers do not get paid enough. There are some amazing teachers out there, and I don't want to take away from any of them because there are some amazing teachers out there. But in this case, it's not our case. And I'm frustrated. I'm getting to go around. No one's giving me answers. And as a parent, you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah, how has the school district and leaders at Minglewood responded to all of this?
My hands are tied. The case is closed. That's it. And I want to remind you that I have not, still to this day, I have not gotten answers as to why the teacher's back, what they did to her punishments.
What did you say to the school as to what you would like to see happen to this teacher?
I made it very clear from the beginning. I just wanted her to be removed from the school and her license to be taken. To me, that seems pretty simple for someone who put hands on a child. If you, as a school district, think that it is acceptable for a teacher to put hands on a child in that manner, you should not be working for the school system. That is unacceptable behavior. Because let me tell you, And I'm just gonna be honest, there are so many other parents who are dealing with this type of situation. No one is being heard. What color is my skin? I'll leave it at that. There is a video. We have our paperwork that we had to sign to watch the video. The school's response to me is, you have to get a court subpoena to get the video. There are other children in the video. There are so many videos of children out there who have their face blurred, so I don't understand why it can't be done in my case. The district attorney, Robert Nash, we had a lovely 2-hour meeting, and let's just say that did not end well. And his final words to us were, if your son can verbalize to us that this teacher wanted or intended on hurting your child, then we will take this to trial. My child is nonverbal. He also said that in the state of Tennessee, hair pulling is not considered assault or abuse. He said it's considered unwanted touch. And we asked him to pull out the law book. We wanted to see where in the law book it states that, and he couldn't give it to us. He sat in his chair and he said, well, you know, I can take this to trial, but there's going to be that one person that I need to persuade. And it's just not worth taking. I said, okay, well, what about the 3 teachers that witnessed it? He said, I don't have any of their reports. Oh, the police officer didn't give you guys their statements? No. Well, guess what? I went with it.
Can you talk about, why you're not giving up and what kind of keeps you moving and going forward every day?
My child. He's my miracle baby. Not everyone is allowed to be, or not everyone has the opportunity to be a parent. And especially to one of special needs. They're special. And if you don't fight for them, who will? It takes a lot of time and energy, and a lot of the times you don't have the support you need. I've been blessed. I always say God sent her my way. Because we did not have anybody's support. Now, how would you feel if someone put hands on your child and the only answers you're getting is, my hands are tied? I need my son to know that as parents, we did everything we could. Because let me tell you, there is no amount of money in this world that will change what we feel, that will change what happened. But the biggest satisfaction for us would be to see this woman removed from the school and not being able to work with any other child.
I'm a mom of a special needs little boy as well. That's kind of how I was exposed to it. When my son was going to enter the pre-K program in Montgomery County schools, I elected to take the rights law classes just to understand what I was getting into, what public education looked like for a special needs little guy. And I took those classes, and then I took the STEP classes, just educated myself what IDEA was, what FAPE was, just so I had a better understanding, so I knew how to proceed with providing, adequate education supports for my own child. It kind of started out, honestly, through my clinic at the time. Families would be there and they would just, we're having problems with their IEP, or, why is there only a pre-K classroom with only special needs kids when they transition out of TEIS? So just a lot of concerned families, and I basically just started my advocacy inadvertently through just helping people, because I had experienced, similar situation stories, had similar questions, concerns, things of that nature. Yeah. That was about 10 years ago, because my little boy will be a freshman this next coming year. He's 8th grade. So yeah, that was about 10 years ago.
So ballpark number, how many families have you been advocating for in these 10 years?
Probably, I would say anywhere from 30 to 50 conservatively.
Wow, yeah. So what did you make when you first heard Jakira's story and what happened to her son?
Well, to be honest, she had a pretty large social media presence, and I am not a large social media presence, but I had showed her, I had like 50 people literally share it to me, like my personal Facebook page of all things. They're like, Beth, have you seen this? Have you heard of the story? So I was like, no, but I reached out to her. It was like, I believe on Clarksville chat. And I just said, hey, I'm a Tennessee advocate for special education. I would like to, help your family if at all possible. Feel free to call me. Here's my information. And then when she did, it was one of the worst cases I had ever been exposed to be honest. I was just really taken back. And to be honest, when she had initially told me this story, I was like, you've got to be missing something. Because for a teacher to use corporal punishment, which that's what it is by definition, physically touching a student, and then literally getting a slap on the wrist was just, I was floored. I was very taken back at that.
What do you make of the district's response and even law enforcement, district attorney, all of that?
So I feel like there should be some type of due diligence in regards to adequately assessing a case, taking the time to genuinely investigate the case. I don't think it's, off cuff when a person hears that a 4-year-old had their hair pulled and their mouth covered, and then an adult pointing their finger in their face and yelling at them in a setting where a child that has sensory needs, a special education child that has a verbal, delay, expressive language to be specific, that she was suspended for 3 days. And then the DA just said, well, there was no proof of any actual harm. There were no basically bruises or, things of that nature. So we're not going to pursue this. It won't hold up. And I quote, it will not hold up in a court of law. I was very taken back that there wasn't an adequate process to really assess. And then looking at it from a mother's perspective, from Jakira, just getting no at every turn, or we can't tell you, or our hands are tied, or just no representation for her as a mom to protect her child in a situation where you feel, you send your kid to school, the last thing you're assuming is that your child is going to be assaulted in school. So.
How frustrating has this all been? I mean, you've been with her through a lot of this now.
Well, you have to understand that Fort Campbell, just in the proximity where we live, because of its geographic location in regards to Vanderbilt, there's only certain military institutions where they can send special needs kids that are enrolled in the EF&P program, because they have to be, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's within 75 miles of a children's hospital to treat the children's needs. So there's this large influx within our community with kids that are enrolled in EF&P, which is the Exceptional Family Members Program through the military. So you would think that as a community, we know this, and you're dealing with an already marginalized community within special education, that they would really have, adequate resources. They would have processes where, when things like this are presented, they're addressed accordingly, and it's within the favor of the family, not in the favor to protect the county. You would think that the DA would read that and say, oh my gosh, a 4-year-old little boy that doesn't have words, a teacher at school covered his mouth, yelled in his face, and then proceedingly pulled his hair. And none of that happened.
Do you see these types of incidents happen more often than not?
All the time. And literally no exaggeration, I have had 2 parents in the last 2 weeks contact me. A little boy in a wheelchair, blind, nonverbal, autism, epilepsy, broken wheelchair, had, bruises, substantial bruises from dragging himself across the floor because he can't walk. And the school, when she contacted the school and she was like, hey, so-and-so, his wheelchair's broke. What's going on? Why weren't we informed? I mean, it's a consistent thing. Yes, consistent.
What do you think the district could have done to better support Jakira and her family?
I think they should have looked at their own internal policies. So CMCS, so corporal punishment by definition in the state of Tennessee is legal. But CMCSS has a policy where it's completely prohibited. From looking at it from just that perspective alone, she violated internal policy that she agreed to adhere to. Why wasn't she at least suspended for an investigation? And I don't know anybody that could say they could do a full, investigation in 3 days. She was suspended for 3 days without pay. So I guess the school can essentially say that they did respond, but I just feel like there should be some safeguards, some procedural safeguards that are implemented when there is a reporting system with, an incident like this. Like, we take X amount of weeks to really investigate it. And I guess that would probably, it's kind of out of my realm of understanding, but there are no procedural safeguards as far as what's an adequate investigation, what defines that, what's your approach to protect kids, what's your approach to advocate for these families and for these families to be heard rather than doors just be shut in their face over and over and over again.
Yeah. Can you talk about how you feel this violates law?
Sure. If I had notes in front of me, I could literally give you the state statutes. But assault is defined in the state of Tennessee. Assault and battery kind of align with one another in a sense. They coincide, and there's like 3 things that fall under that law. And the third one basically is kind of what I took precedence in as far as justifying it, like intent to cause harm. Pulling somebody's hair is intent to cause harm. By definition, that in itself should have justified, the school proceeding with at least, giving her an assault charge. And then the secondary piece to that is that the SRO that did file the report, it was filed assault against a minor, and the DA threw it out. So not only looking at the internal policy that the teacher agreed to, violation, assault and battery just under, the definition within state statutes, and then the SRO's report. And a tertiary piece to that is corporal punishment against a minor that's outlined under Tennessee education law is illegal. It's completely prohibited with a special education minor. So even if the school removed the policy that it's prohibited in general at CMCSS, under state statutes through Tennessee education law, corporal punishment against a special education student is prohibited. So there's various levels that policy was violated, laws were compromised, you know what I mean? And that's the piece, if you just connecting all of those dots, that she was suspended for 3 days.
Yeah. Why do you think the district attorney general didn't pursue this?
I think there's a pattern here. There was a situation in Cooperstown, I believe, that was also, I think it may have been aired on your guys' station. A little girl was abused. It was reported, and he did not respond adequately in regards to moving forward with, the appropriate, I guess, legal charges there either. So I can't speak for him. I've tried to meet with him. I know that you guys have tried to meet with him, and our attempts have been unsuccessful. So I would love to be able to have a conversation with him and just really, wrap my brain around what his understanding is or why he does, come to that conclusion with his rulings. But I can't speak on the behalf of him, but I can just say that there is an identified pattern of behavior with him.
Is there anything else you'd like to say, or any other message you have for maybe families who are going through something similar? Or
Absolutely. I will say that I have had a special needs child in CMCSS. Like I said, he'll be 15. So the Montgomery County school system has made huge strides in like the last 3 years. Our superintendent, our new director of special populations, so Dr. Luna Vetter is our superintendent. Mrs. Peacock is the director of special populations. They are the first 2 women that I feel like, well, I shouldn't say women, but representatives in general within our county, since I've been doing this for 10 years, that I feel have actually taken the time to listen, to hear me, been very receptive. They actually asked for feedback. Our new county mayor, Wes Golden, he's the first person that's ever been like, I want to know, how can we, better help the public education system? What can we do, for your community, as far as my, the special needs community, which I represent? So I will say they've made massive, massive strides. The best advice that I can give to families is educate yourself. Take the time. It's out there. Some of these courses are free. Google can be your best friend as far as looking up what IDEA is, what FAPE is, what the least restrictive environment is. And just really as a family, what your rights are and what you are entitled to, that is outlined in federal, state law, that's outlined within your county, whatever county that may be, and what your district offers, and just ask questions. The biggest piece that I can tell families as well is don't call. You need a paper trail. You have to have an email. Include all parties. I always recommend to families include somebody on a district level on those emails, so that somebody's aware outside of just the school that you happen to be in, just so you do have a paper trail. So when you can say, I requested an IEP. Well, if you did that verbally, you have 10 days, from the request of that, initial for that IEP. I don't say they have 10 days. Let me restate that. The school district has 10 days to comply with the request from a family, but if you've done that verbally, you don't have any proof, so it's kind of, your word against whomever. But keep a paper trail and just really educate for yourself. And then remember that in a lot of instances, you are the only voice your child is going to have. And we are tired, and it is hard. It is a full-time job to be a parent in general, but to be a special needs parent, there are resources out there. There are people that understand. There are people that can relate. You just gotta find your community and just really dig in and get a support system.